A little disclaimer before I start this podcast. I am voice-overing this podcast while I'm sitting outside, so fair warning, you might be hearing all the random noises that come from being outside. I needed some sunshine and wanted a break from laying down in my bed, so here I am, outside, recording this voiceover for my podcast. Okay, let's begin. Hello beautiful warriors, it is me, Caitlin Parker, and welcome back to this episode of Inside the Mind of a PAH Warrior. In today's podcast, I am starting something new for you guys. I wanted to start doing a weekly review, and that's where I share what I experienced that week and how my mental health and physical health were like. We all know that every day is a struggle for me, with both my mental and physical health. I am learning that writing down what I did during the week and then talking about it with you guys and my therapist is what's helping me cope better with my life struggles. From now on, I will be doing a weekly podcast where I start out by writing down everything I did that week that I want to open up and share with you guys. That includes rants and story times, sharing both positive and negative experiences, the challenges I faces with having PAH, and opening up about my mental health. Then I record my voice on my phone reading my journal entry for the week. Then I upload the footage to iMovie where I make a podcast style video and then upload it to my YouTube channel. This is my safe place where I can open up and get all the thoughts out of my head, and I hope to inspire some of you. I have always struggled with opening up to people face to face, but I can openly write down all my thoughts and share them through my podcast where people can listen to my words without me having to sit down and talk to them in person. I also love doing voice-only podcasts instead of a visual podcast because when I do voiceovers, I can write down all the thoughts and it goes smoothly. And then when I try to record myself saying these things, I constantly repeat myself because I don't remember what I just said. So this helps me with staying on topic and not repeating my thoughts. With all that being said, let's start out my first weekly review with my trip to Denver. The time frame is August 6th to August 11th. This story time begins on a Sunday because that's the day I traveled to Denver. My mom drove me to Cheyenne, where we met Colby at Pizza Hut for lunch. My mom and I shared a taco pizza, and Colby had a pepperoni pizza. It was nice to see a Pizza Hut that was running successfully and had more than a table of people at a time, because in Casper, the only Pizza Hut where you can go in and eat has been going downhill for years, and I'm honestly surprised it is still in business. After lunch, my mom and brother unloaded my bags from my mom's vehicle and then put my bags into my brother's vehicle. My mom drove back to Casper, and Colby and I drove up to Denver, where Colby is now living. After we got to Denver, Colby brought all my bags and my oxygen and my wheelchair into his apartment. This is a little reminder that I do have a chronic illness, so I can't carry anything heavy at all. I can barely even walk 10 steps without carrying anything. So just imagine what it would be like for me to carry a suitcase or my oxygen machine or get my wheelchair out of a vehicle. I simply just can't do it. On the same night as traveling down to Denver, Colby and I also went to an outside outlet mall, and that's where the first story time begins. I wanted to go to this particular outlet mall because they have this sock store in one of their outlets and they sell crazy and funny styled socks, so I wanted to go there and look at their socks. When we got to the parking lot though, there was no available handicap parking, so we did have to park quite a ways from the front entrance. Mind you, I did have my wheelchair, so I didn't have to walk that far distance, but still, I would rather park in the handicap section. We got inside the mall and Colby was pushing me in my wheelchair, and we searched everywhere for that sock store, and after about 10 minutes, we finally found it. But the sock store was closed, so unfortunately, I didn't get to go inside that store and see all the funny socks. We passed the Levi's store on our way to the sock store, so I wanted to go back to that Levi's store and find some mom jeans. Because I remembered that the last time we were there, I found a pair of mom jeans that fit me perfectly, and I wear them often, so I wanted to try and find another pair like that. When we got to the women's jeans section, there was only one little section that had mom jeans that were the style I liked. But the problem was they didn't have tags that said 0 to 14 sizes. They had like the 26-inch waist by 30-inch length tags on them, and I have no idea what size I'm in. I know I'm a size 2, but I have no idea what my waist length is or leg length. So we got 2 pairs that are different sizes so I could try them on, because they didn't have many options on sizes, and I honestly can't remember the size range they had. But anyways, I grabbed 2 pairs of jeans that were a little different in lengths and had to go try them on. So we waited in line to use the dressing rooms. And remember, I was in a wheelchair, so the person that was working had only one wheelchair accessible fitting room, but it was occupied, and we waited in line for a solid 10 minutes watching people go in and out of all the normal fitting rooms. The worker kept apologizing to us and said they are taking a longer time than I thought they would. After about 5 more minutes of watching probably around 10 people go in and out of other fitting rooms, I waited for the worker to come around again, and I told them that I would just like to go into a normal fitting room and that I could walk without the wheelchair to a fitting room. So there were about 3 normal fitting rooms empty at that point, and Colby pushed me into one of them and then just took the wheelchair out and waited for me to be done. Now the hard part came, and this is when I actually started having an anxiety attack. I was sitting down and grabbed a pair of jeans, and without looking, I accidentally grabbed the smaller jeans first and then tried them on. They didn't end up fitting, but I already struggle really badly with putting on clothes. It takes a lot of energy, and I get out of breath super fast, so I was really disappointed when I finally realized that I had grabbed the smaller jeans first when I meant to try on the bigger jeans first. I then had to take a few minutes to catch my breath and muster up some energy to try on the last pair of jeans. When I finally felt ready, I tried on the second pair of jeans, and once again, they didn't fit. I was out of breath again and basically had about 20% energy left. I sat down and took off the pants, and that's when I noticed both of my legs were purple, and also both of my feet were purple. That is not uncommon for that to happen, but normally I am wearing pants, so I don't actually see my legs or feet when I am completely out of breath. That's when I started to have an anxiety attack. I was completely out of breath from trying on 2 pairs of jeans, and I had little energy left. I was looking in the mirror, and all I could see was my legs and feet were more purple than they normally are. My lips were purple, and my skin was flushed. It's very hard for me to see what I actually look like when I am out of breath and not getting enough oxygen to multiple parts of my body. Because normally, when I get out of breath, I do not look at myself in the mirror, so I can feel that I am out of breath, but I can't see what I physically look like. And seeing myself in the mirror after trying on the jeans scared me, and I started tearing up and started to notice that I was very overwhelmed, and my breathing started to get harder. It was the beginning of having an anxiety attack, but I quickly shut that down. Within 10 seconds of me tearing up and breathing faster, I looked away from the mirror, closed my eyes, and said, "It's okay, you are safe. Calm your breathing down." I repeated those words until my breathing was back to normal. I opened my eyes and looked back in the mirror. I could see that my face and lips were back to their normal color, and my legs and feet were still purple, but the normal purple they are now. I wiped my tears and put on my sweatpants and opened the door, and Colby was right next to the door waiting for me. I just told him that both of the pants didn't fit and I wanted to put them back and leave the store. I think he knew something was wrong because he just said okay and didn't try to push the conversation further. When we went back over to the jeans section, I put both of the pants back and I told him that I was done jean shopping because I didn't have the energy to look for more jeans or to try on any more jeans. He said okay, and out the store we went. If you remember in the Denver vlog, you saw that I also went to the Claire's store and bought some earrings. But I am not going to go more in depth with that one. I mainly just wanted to explain my anxiety attack and how I was super proud of myself for stopping it before it got bad and turned into a panic attack. Because I can't even imagine if I had a panic attack inside a fitting room with all those people hearing it. Oof, I could not. I don't even want to think about it. I am just very proud of myself for recognizing my pre-anxiety attack emotions and symptoms and stopping it quickly. I did want to backtrack a little bit and just share with you guys my anxiety levels and why I struggle so much with going places in my wheelchair, and especially knowing that I will have to try on clothing, because that's a chore for me on most days. And as embarrassing as this may be to say to you guys, I wear the same clothes for 3 to 5 days a week because it takes all my energy just to change clothes, which again is just another daily struggle that I have to go through that healthy people take for granted. Anyways, going back to why going anywhere in my wheelchair is a huge anxiety triggering event. Let's just straight up start with parking in the handicap spot. First of all, I park in the handicap spot, get out of my car, and immediately start having anxiety over the people staring at me. Most of them wondering why I even parked in the handicap spot to begin with, because I am 23, young looking. Most of the time, I don't even have my oxygen on right away when I get out of the car because I don't need it if I'm in my wheelchair. So here I am, young, skinny girl, getting out of the vehicle with no visible signs that I am handicapped. So the anxiety train starts there, and I am waiting about 30 seconds before a family member opens the trunk and starts to get out of my wheelchair. So for those 30 seconds, I am standing there with all the anxiety while people are walking and staring at me. Then comes the weight of having someone get my wheelchair out from the back, because it's not an easy job, so it takes a few minutes to even get the wheelchair out, because it's an awkward size and very heavy. So quickly, from the "you don't look handicapped" stares, I get the "why are you just standing there and not helping the person get the wheelchair out" stares, which honestly fills me up with shame and worthlessness, because if I could help them, I would, but I physically can't do it. And it's even worse when it's my grandma who has to take out my wheelchair from the back of the vehicle, because obviously she looks like a grandma. And as she struggles to get my wheelchair out, here I am, a young, skinny-looking girl, just watching her and not helping. So I am just sitting there almost in tears every time, because I feel so judged by other people. And even though I haven't had anyone actually say that to my face yet, that's what I feel like other people are thinking. Like, surprise! No, actually the grandma doesn't need the wheelchair, it's for the other girl. And it's just really hard for me to go out with her in my wheelchair, because I am constantly thinking every time that I see somebody that it should be the other way around. I should be pushing her in a wheelchair instead of her pushing me in the wheelchair. Anyways, sorry I got off track, but I felt like that needed to be said, because that explains why I get anxiety over standing and watching somebody struggle to get my wheelchair out of their car. So back to the story. Colby was getting my wheelchair out, and of course, people also stare at that, and it creates more anxiety for me, so I'm constantly on high alert, and really beginning to feel overwhelmed and overstimulated. Then after getting out of the car, I sit down in my wheelchair, and we head for the entrance, and oh my gosh, all the stares I get from strangers just on the way there is overwhelming, to the point where I still can't look people in the eyes when I am in a wheelchair. I am better at looking people in the eyes while I'm wearing oxygen, but it's still a mental struggle every time. I still can't physically push myself to look at people while I'm in the wheelchair. I can figuratively and literally say that people are looking down on me. This is the first time I have ever used those words to explain why I can't look at people while I'm in a wheelchair, and guys, my mind just clicked and was like, wow, that really makes sense. And that was a good explanation. So okay, back to the explanation. Colby was pushing me in my wheelchair. I was just looking straight forward, not looking at anybody like I always do, but I can still feel everyone's eyes on me, and my anxiety keeps growing. Then, when we get to the Levi's store, we are faced with the challenges of opening the door and all the overwhelming emotions I get while that's going on. I get very overwhelmed every single time, to the point where sometimes I just have to close my eyes or look down for a minute and let those emotions go. I'm going to try to explain what it's like opening a door with a wheelchair, but this might not make sense, so please bear with me. Okay, so Colby opens the door, right, and has his hand on the door and starts pushing my wheelchair forward so that I can reach my hand out and put it on the door to keep it open, while Colby then takes his hand off the door and places both hands on my wheelchair. And every time you open the door, there is a little bump between the outside of the door and the inside of the building. So while I am holding the door open with one hand, Colby is getting my wheelchair over the small bump, which comes with lots of challenges because it's not a smooth transition, and most of the time, while I place my hand on the door, he starts moving the wheelchair. We hit the bump, the wheelchair goes back a little, so Colby has to retry and gets hold of the back of the chair so the front of the wheels go up. I'm trying to describe a wheelie basically. So that's the point where I am at, the wheelie position, and we get the wheelchair inside the door. I take my hand off the door and we quickly try to get in before the door hits the back of Colby. I really hope that all makes sense to you guys. So of course, I get overwhelmed by that. And it's even worse when you have people around you while that is all happening, just watching you go through the doors. So you basically have an audience watching you struggle. And yes, most of the time they do offer to help open the door, but at that point, I already have bad anxiety. I am overstimulated, by all the stairs from the moment I get out of my vehicle to the front of the doors. So most of the time, I just pray that nobody is at the door or walks by us because it's too overwhelming either way, when we have to open the door by ourselves or when someone offers to help. So okay, at this point, we made it into the store and immediately all eyes were on us. And it didn't help that the place was very crowded, so there was barely enough room between all the racks, all the people, and my wheelchair. It was just a giant mess. And this goes for every single place I go to. There is barely enough space. The women's clothing section was on the left side of the building, so when we turned left, there was 3 groups of people checking out different racks of jeans, but they were all spread out from the middle of the store to the left of the store, where I needed to go. So Colby and I just sat there waiting for the first people to move, and when they were done, they walked away. Then we got a little closer to where we needed, but not quite there, and there was this guy standing by the rack of clothing, but he was blocking the entrance to the section I needed. So Colby pushed me over to the guy, then we stopped, and he quickly realized and moved. So then we finally got to the spot we needed. But you guys, my wheelchair barely fit, and it was so awkward and uncomfortable. So again, my anxiety was increasing. I was getting more overwhelmed and overstimulated. We got to the mom jeans and realized that, oh, they don't have size 0 to 14 listed. No, they have the waist lengths and the legs length listed. I knew from going in there that I would have to try on jeans, but I thought that I would only have to try on 1 pair of jeans because, yes, I know my size, but jeans are just so complicated, so you just never know if they're going to fit or not. So that's why I haven't been jean shopping in a couple of years, because it's just too much for me. But I thought I had enough energy to at least try on 1 pair of jeans, and I was looking forward to finding another pair of mom jeans. So okay, we found some mom jeans, yada yada. I grabbed 2 pairs. Again, the store was very crowded, and it was hard for me to get around in the fitting rooms or in the clear back, so it was hard getting from the jean rack to the fitting room. I am constantly being stared at, my anxiety is getting worse, but I don't realize how bad it's getting. Little things are starting to build, so I'm getting to the point where I'm going to shut down. We get to the fitting room, and there are a line of people waiting to get in. So we stood in the line, waiting for about 5 minutes till we were the first people in line. That's when the workers said they only have 1 handicap fitting room, but somebody was already in it. So I was thinking, okay, that's fine. We'll just wait for that room. But literally 10 minutes go by, and there are people going in and out of fitting rooms. About 7 people that were behind us go in and out of the fitting rooms while we were just standing there. Again, that was 10 minutes of me sitting in my wheelchair, getting constantly stared at. At that point, I had enough. So I told him, okay, we'll just take a regular room. And then y'all already know what happened when I was in the fitting room. But writing this all out made me realize I was sitting in the fitting room, and the jeans were not fitting, and I could see the reality of what it looks like when I am out of breath. That was my breaking point. I was too overwhelmed and too overstimulated, and I could no longer handle my emotions or my anxiety. So I started having an anxiety attack. Then after the fitting room incident, I walked out. I was emotionally drained, I was physically drained, and just wanted to get out of there as quickly as I could and get outside and get some fresh air to calm down and regroup. At that point, I thought I was done shopping, but as we were heading to the car, I saw a Claire's store, and I'm like, okay, I'm already here. I have been wanting to buy earrings for a long time. Let's just go inside. And so I did. Yes, I did have to re-go through the getting into the store phase, which, like I said, is always a nightmare. And I also forgot to mention that we did go into 2 other stores before we went to the Levi's store. But it was a quick trip because we didn't find anything we were interested in. But again, it's little things like the constant stares and the in and out of going through the doors that eats away at me. Claire's was the only positive thing that came out of that trip. Right away from entering the store, we found a country theme section of earrings and went straight to that. And I was having fun looking at all the cute different earrings. The store wasn't as crowded, but the aisle spaces were small, so it was still difficult to get around. But the happiness from looking at the earrings was outweighing the negative emotions I was feeling at the time. After we got to Claire's, I was drained and used up all my energy, and my mind was cluttered with all the overwhelming anxiety I was having, so we made a beeline towards the exit, And of course, I was still getting stared at and everything, but my only focus was just to get to the car. So everything was a blur from then on. Wow. Writing all that down and getting into the full detail on that specific outing just helped me immensely with looking back on that outing and other outings that were the same but different places. Really helps me understand more clearly why it takes so much energy for me to go to places. It doesn't matter if I'm going shopping, out to dinner, to the store, to the dog bakery, it's all the same. It's constantly feeling all those emotions, feeling all the stares, and feeling less than other people. It all makes sense. And to go back to what my therapist said a few weeks ago about emotional buildup, I can now see actual examples in my life of that. And I can see why I'm hypersensitive and why those experiences are hard for me. Because again, with going anywhere, I have the beforehand anxiety of going somewhere. I have the getting to the place anxiety, standing by my car waiting for my wheelchair anxiety, getting from my car to the front entrance anxiety, the whole getting through the door anxiety, then me being in the store or the place anxiety, and whatever else happens while I'm there, then going to the register and checking out anxiety, because that's when I have to look at the people and have a conversation with them, then going out the door anxiety, then the moment from the store back to the car anxiety, and then getting back into the car exhaustion because it's a big movement for me and normally I lose my breath getting in and out of vehicles. So by the time I am back in the vehicle, I have all this anxiety built up, all those emotions built up. I am overwhelmed, overstimulated, both physically and mentally exhausted, and my battery has ran out. So I spend the entire ride home normally just trying to decompose and get back to feeling safe and grounded. And that's not even including the whole getting back into my house and all that fun stuff that I'm not going to get into. I know that was a long rant, but wow, everything just clicked inside my mind and made everything make sense. I couldn't explain it before on why going out to anywhere took so much out of me, but just taking the time to write out all of this has really helped me, and I now know why it takes everything out of me. Wow, that's just crazy. I know that I don't have the time to explain fully to somebody who asks me why I don't want to go out, but wow, I can now shorten this up and give them a shorter version of the story, and hopefully it makes sense in their head, and hopefully they finally understand and now realize why I don't ever want to go out to places. And it's not because I don't want to, but it's because of everything I go through when I go out. Wow, you guys, I just had to take a break for a moment because my brain is just at full capacity and I need time to process what I just said. Because like I said, that was the first time I took the time to actually write out an experience and not hold anything back, and wow, that felt good to get that out. So I will be back once I take a minute to process what I had just said. I know this is a podcast, so obviously it's not just going to stop here and go silent. No, I have more things to share with you guys about my trip to Denver. But right now, it's late, I'm done typing, my mind is blown from what I just shared with you guys. I'm going to sleep, and I will come back tomorrow and finish the rest of the week in Denver story times. Okay, I'm back and well rested. I needed that break and I am ready to continue. I just explained what I did on Sunday to you guys, so now we're gonna go to Monday. On Monday, I didn't do much. My body needed a rest day from the traveling I did on Sunday, and then the whole shopping experience. I did a gym painting, and that was all I did. When my brother came home from work, he made pizza rolls for dinner, and we sat down on the couch and watched TV until bedtime. And that was my Monday. Nice and simple. On Tuesday, Colby and I went over to my grandpa's to have hamburgers for dinner. My cousin Gage and Uncle Luke were also in town that night because they were going to go golfing with my grandpa the next day. I had such a fun time over there, and I have funny stories that I am going to share from that night. The first one is when we got over there and my brother was helping my grandpa get all the food prepared before they cooked it on the grill. And while my grandpa was getting ingredients out of the fridge, he asked me if I wanted provolone cheese on my cheeseburger. And I politely said no. The only cheese I like on cheeseburgers is American cheese. And then a few minutes later, he went back to the fridge, pulled out the provolone cheese, and was like, "Well, you guys, I only have provolone cheese." And I started to laugh because I don't think I've ever seen somebody eat provolone cheese on a cheeseburger. Then he asked everyone else if they wanted provolone cheese on their cheeseburger, and everybody laughed and said no. So we went over there to have cheeseburgers, but my grandpa only had provolone cheese, so no one besides him had a cheeseburger. We all ended up just having a hamburger. But that was just a funny story I wanted to share. The next funny story is Colby and I were talking about sushi, and I had mentioned that I wanted to go to this place where they sold sushi on a conveyor belt because a few months ago, Colby and Jace went to that sushi place and told me all about it. And even though I don't really enjoy sushi, I still really wanted to go just to experience getting sushi from a conveyor belt because I just think it would be so much fun. So as Colby and I were talking about this, my grandpa goes, "So this place, you sit down and the sushi comes out on a conveyor belt, and while it goes around in a circle, you have to grab the sushi with chopsticks." And you guys, when I say I bursted out laughing, I was crying laughing for a solid 20 minutes. And I couldn't even finish the sentence I just said because I started laughing again. But anyways, I was laughing so hard. I looked at my grandpa and said, "What? You think you have to grab the sushi off the conveyor belt with chopstick?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I bursted out laughing again. That's when my brother said, "No, Grandpa, you don't grab the sushi with the chopsticks. There are 2 pieces of sushi that comes on a tiny plate, and you grab the plate with the type of sushi that you want." And he goes, "Oh, that makes sense." And then I started laughing all over again because I kept picturing my grandpa sitting there at the table trying to grab sushi with his chopsticks. But keep in mind, he doesn't know how to use chopsticks, so I kept picturing him trying to grab the sushi with chopsticks but dropping it. And y'all, after that conversation, I immediately called my mom and told her that I needed to tell her a funny story. But I kept on laughing while I was telling her the story, so when I finished telling her, she didn't laugh. And I said, "Mom, you didn't think that was funny?" And she said, "Well, I honestly couldn't understand much of what you were saying because you were laughing too hard." So then my brother told my mom the story, while again, I kept laughing. And she was like, "Oh my God, that is so funny." So when I told you guys I was laughing for a solid 20 minutes straight after my grandpa said that, I meant it. I even had to keep pausing while writing this out loud because I started laughing. It was just too funny. And I'm like, you know what? It's even funnier because I could picture myself saying the same thing if I didn't watch a vlog last year of somebody going to a sushi place and it coming off of a conveyor belt. So I already had prior knowledge beforehand of Colby and Jace going there. Because if I didn't, I could totally see myself asking Colby how you got the sushi. So yeah, those were my 2 story times from Tuesday night. My grandpa with his provolone cheese, and my grandpa thinking you got sushi off the conveyor belt with chopsticks. Alright, now it's Wednesday, and that was the day Colby, Jace, and I went to Gunther's Tootie's Diner. And y'all saw that vlog, so I'm not going to go much into detail about it. I had a root beer float, and then we all ordered chicken strips for dinner. The service was not very good because there was about 6 employees just standing around while one girl was doing the job of 5 people. So we felt bad, and she was our waiter. Colby accidentally put sugar on her chips instead of salt, which was super hilarious, by the way. So I highly recommend watching the Denver vlog because I got it all on video. We did some car karaoke and went to Dutch Bros. And you guys, that was my first and last time I will ever go to Dutch Bros. Not because I didn't like the drink I had, but just because of the amount of talking the drive-thru person did. I am so glad that I wasn't driving, so I didn't have to interact with him. Jace was the one driving, and he talked the entire time, just asking Jace questions, and to me it felt like an interview. So I just know that being an introvert and having huge drive-thru anxiety, that I would never want to experience that again. That same night, we also filmed the What Did You Say challenge video, so also go check that video out. It was super fun to film, but I honestly thought it was too easy, because I could understand everything that Jace and Colby were saying, but their phrases were too long, so I couldn't remember what they had just said. And also, one round, I tied the bandana too tight around my mouth and couldn't get it off. So Colby had to untie the bandana for me. So I am just thankful that he acted quickly and got the bandana off before I started panicking, because I could have easily had a panic attack while filming that video. Next was my favorite day, and that was Thursday. Colby, my grandpa, and I went putt-putt golfing, and we laughed and had fun the entire time. I vlogged the entire thing, and it could easily be one of my favorite summertime videos I did. Again, if you haven't already watched it, go to the video Putt-Putt Golfing with my grandpa. It was such a blast, and I guarantee it will make you laugh and put a smile on your face. I had so much fun. I literally had nothing bad to say about that night. The golf course place was handicap accessible, so I was able to golf with my wheelchair, and that made a world of difference. I only got out of breath a couple of times, but it was nothing compared to what it could have been. Because I was super nervous at first that I wouldn't be able to bring my wheelchair and that I would have to walk around the golf course. So just having my wheelchair with me and not having any issues with my wheelchair being on the course really helped made that night much more enjoyable. The sidewalks had plenty of space for my wheelchair, and when I was actually golfing, Colby was able to push me onto the turf to where my golf ball was without any trouble. So I am just incredibly thankful for that whole night, and huge shout out to Adventure Golf for being handicap accessible. I had a smile on my face the entire night, and after explaining all this to Colby and why I was so happy that it was handicap accessible, his face lit up too, just seeing how happy I was and how happy the experience was for all of us. Because you guys know how uncomfortable I am with my wheelchair, and I don't have very many positive experience with it. So again, please check out that video because you guys can just see us smiling and laughing the entire time. And my grandpa also had a blast too, and now he loves the idea of vlogging and can't wait to make more videos with us. Friday was a little tough on me mentally because I had the expectation that Colby would be driving me back to Casper and then also spending the weekend with us. But when I woke up, I had a message from Colby saying that he had to work on Saturday, so Sarah was now meeting us in Cheyenne and driving me the rest of the way to Casper. And also on top of that, my mom had also sent me a message saying that she would like me to change the meeting I had scheduled with hospice from next Tuesday to Friday because she wanted my dad to be there. And as you guys know, I don't deal with change very well. So as soon as I woke up on Friday, I had 2 big changes that I wasn't prepared for, and I got overwhelmed and cried. I felt bad for Sarah because I didn't want her driving to Cheyenne to come pick me up, but that was really my only option. So I just needed some time to process that change of plan, and then I was okay. But on top of that, I also had to reschedule my hospice meeting, and the whole hospice situation has just been a huge anxiety-provoking life change. So it might be dumb that it affected me so much just changing the date of the meeting, but it was a big deal for me. I can't talk much about hospice right now because I haven't fully processed it yet, and I'm definitely not at the point where I even want to think about it. Because if you know what hospice is, you know why it's hard to accept. Hospice is end-of-life care, and I am only 23, so it's very hard for me to accept that this is my reality, and my brain can't mentally think about deeply what this actually means for me going on hospice. So that is all I'm going to say about it for right now. There will be a podcast coming later on that topic, so it might not make sense right now, but I promise that when the podcast comes out, I will go deep into my thoughts and feelings and explain in full detail what my experience was like, and it will all make sense. Okay, anyways, sorry to get off topic. So yeah, I woke up and had to make major changes to my day that I wasn't prepared for, so I was very overwhelmed. I needed time to calm myself down and tell myself it was okay. I just needed time to process this. I know any type of change to my schedule is very hard for me, but it was going to be okay. So yes, Colby drove me from Denver to Cheyenne, and then we met my best friend Sarah at the gas station in Cheyenne, and she drove me from Cheyenne to Casper. We actually talked the entire way home and got into a really deep conversation, so I was thankful that she opened up to me and felt safe to open up and talk to me. It was a very nice car ride home. Now with the hospice situation, I did call them and try to change my appointment, but the lady I needed to talk to wasn't available, so I had to leave her a note, and then the person who was on the phone would relay that message to the worker I needed to speak to. That was on a Friday, and then they don't work Saturday or Sunday, so I called her again on Monday, and then got through to her and changed my appointment from Tuesday to Friday, so everything got sorted out. I am actually glad that my mom made me change the appointment because I definitely think it will help me to have my dad there instead of just being by myself. It will be a huge comfort not being alone and having him by my side. But you guys, that was it for this week's weekly review. That was my week in Denver recap, and just sitting down and writing this all out and sharing what happened through the week, both the positive and negative things, has helped me process what I went through. It's nice having a safe place to open up and share the thoughts inside my head. If you guys have made it this far, thank you for listening to me ramble. With all that being said, this PAH warrior is signing off. Bye guys, peace.